little bit more about how this program is going to work.
Hi, Emily. Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Hey there, tell us a little bit more about how this program Concentric is going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the key idea is, what we're looking at is workplaces and schools that are trying to reopen in the midst of an active pandemic here in the United States. And so what they're trying to figure out is, how do I prevent outbreaks among the community of people that I'm responsible for? And so the idea is, one of the ways to do that is with things like PPE and social distancing within the office. But the other thing is regular testing to identify if an outbreak is starting to happen, then you can isolate and have people stay home before it spreads within a workplace or school. And so that's the idea behind Concentric. It's to start offering more widespread screening testing to the community as we all live with this disease.
How do you imagine regular testing is going to work? I mean, is this something that employees and students are going to go through or have to go through every day before they go into school or go into the office?
It won't be every day. And I think part of the confusion is, we needed a lot of clinical diagnostics in sort of the first phase, the acute phase of the pandemic, where you really had doctors making decisions about people who were sick and needing to know, do they have COVID or not? We built up 300,000 or 400,000 tests like that in the United States in the last, kind of heroically in the last 3 or 4 months. Well, now what we need is much lighter weight testing. Ideally, it's not going to be a nurse administered swab. It would be something you could do yourself, either saliva or in the middle of your nose. And it would be collected just at your workplace. You wouldn't have to go anywhere. And you would do it maybe, depending on how acute the outbreak is in your area, once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks, depending. And you need to actually model that. You have to do a little bit of epidemiological modeling to know, but that would be the idea.
What's been the interest from companies and schools so far? I mean, there's still so much uncertainty, and I'm sure many of them don't really know how often they're going to have to do this and for how long.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, right? I mean, a ton of interest, but I think there's also just people are confused about this, and I think rightly, because we haven't, the last time we dealt with a pandemic at the scale that would close down the global economy was in 1918. It was 100 years ago. And so, of course, we don't have any of the infrastructure built to do this well. And so, we're seeing a lot of interest, especially among schools that are trying to open, but also really major employers. And again, it's partially a workplace safety issue, but Emily, it's also business continuity, right? Tyson had to shut down 6% of poultry production in the U.S. Ford had to close the F-150 plant. Businesses that want to stay open in the midst of this will need some level of regular testing to do it.
You partner with other Boston-based biotech companies, including Moderna, on manufacturing their COVID-19 vaccine candidate. From your perspective, how is the development of that vaccine going so far?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm excited in general about all of these nucleic acid vaccines. Moderna is the leader in that space, but these are a new type of vaccine that uses DNA or RNA to more quickly be able to bring the vaccine to sort of clinical trials and prove that it works. And so in this instance of a pandemic, it's really valuable. I think the general challenge with vaccines is it's a little unpredictable. Like, we're hoping to have them right at the end of the year. They have to work, right? They're being given to healthy people, and then you have to make a lot of them. And so that it's just, we're all hoping for the end of the year, but it could go longer. And I think one of the things that gets me excited about sort of large scale testing is, in advance of the vaccine, if you had enough screening, right, you could essentially beat this thing before you had the vaccine, right? You would need to go from the 400,000 clinical tests we have a day to something closer to 5 to 10 million of these lower cost screens. But if you did that, you could start to actually get rid of this thing and kind of get back to normal in advance of a vaccine. And so I think you'll see with the Congress coming up on a stimulus bill, I bet they push a lot of effort in that direction for that reason.
And yet there's so much about this disease that we still don't know. I know scientists are working together, cooperating, in unprecedented ways. But how likely do you think it is that we have a vaccine before the end of the year?
The end of the year would be by far the fastest anyone has ever done this. So I think we should cross our fingers for it, but be planning for next summer, in my view. Yeah.
Meantime, we're seeing a resurgence of the disease in various states, in various countries, new waves of the disease in places that hadn't been hit before. How concerned are you about the resurgence of COVID-19, 2, 3, 4 waves of this disease over the next couple of years?
Extremely concerned. Yeah. And I think, I mean, here's the thing I think people are missing, right? So you had certain, think of it almost like a dry bed of leaves, right? And you've had like a bunch of little fires pop up, and certain countries were able to put them out real quickly, right? And we didn't. We had like some level of them go out, and we've sort of put some of them out. But even the countries that have them out, they're still sitting on a dry bed of leaves, right? And as soon as there's a little bit of fire, you got to have a fire department to go put that thing out. And that requires, I think, going into even just this fall for every country on the planet, not just the United States where we have more of an outbreak, you need to have, again, huge amounts of testing, or else how are you going to control this thing, right? And I think, I think it's hard because it's a scale of biological problem we haven't faced in 100 years. But the better we are at admitting the scope of the problem, the better chance we have of getting ahead of it. In the United States, we have the technology to do this. We're fortunate in the life sciences. And we could achieve the scale if we had the will to put this thing down, to build our fire department of screening and then tracing and isolation. And if we had that, we wouldn't even need a vaccine, or at least it would be much less important. And we need to build it. It can be done.